So I'm going to share my screen first.
Yeah. All right. Everyone ready to talk about distressed properties?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay. So I'm Mark Bisbee, team leader here at KW Costa Mesa. I'll be kicking it off when we're talking about REOs, listing and selling properties in that nature. I'm going to do it for about the first 30 minutes. Then my buddy, David Rosales, team leader Northwest Indiana, AKA Doc, because his initials are DR, is going to bring it home with listing short sales, which is what he has experience with. And then we're going to collaborate at the end as far as working with buyers on how to present your buyer in the best manner possible to get your offer accepted and protect their best interests throughout these types of transactions. In full disclosure, up front and right now, in your immediate future, David's class is going to be much more relevant as to where the market's going to go initially. They have to go through the short sale process, generally speaking, in order to become REOs, if that makes sense. Now, my background is from the years of 2009 to 2013, approximately. I worked on a team with two partners where we were selling anywhere from 120 to 150 REOs a year. We were direct brokers for American Home Mortgage Servicing and Fannie Mae, meaning we got the assignments direct from the bank. We didn't do BPOs and waste our time doing these processes in order to hope to get the listing. So there's a whole different back end on how that all works out. And we're going to kind of go into detail into that a little bit today. Some of the slides are a little outdated, so bear with me, but we'll dredge through it and I'll drop in my knowledge as to what my experience has shown me over the years. So today, what you're going to learn: distressed property timeline. An REO, what exactly is it? Who the REO listing agent is, mindsets as far as lenders, asset managers, agents, and buyers, how you can really lead generate for them, BPOs, as we alluded to, broker price opinions. Basically, long story short, it's an appraisal done by a real estate agent. REO listing and selling process, building your REO listing business, and listing REOs and you. Keep going. All right, we can keep going. So we're going to go over the skills and connections that you're going to need and start developing yesterday, going forward here on this. So go ahead. Anita's going to be working the chat box. So if there's any questions, you guys can raise your hands, type it in. Anita also has a lot of knowledge here in the REO business as well. She has a similar background to me through the last shift. So here's our objectives: see opportunity, grasp the market background and foreclosure process, know what changes to expect, know the lenders, asset managers, mindsets, and motivations. And I'm going to speak on what I saw happen the last time around rather than, so much of what they're talking about here. So just know the REO listing and selling process. Now, it is a process and you need to be highly systematized and organized. I learned that over the years because those who know me know I am not by nature an organized person, but I had to become one in order to survive in that marketplace, in that industry. So there were a lot of systems that we had in place. You say we were, when you talk about doing 120 to 150 homes a year, I can tell you right now, it was probably the only time in my real estate career where I worked a 40-hour week or less. But that took a lot of process and a lot of experimentation. So, and then how to work effectively with the buyer's agents. Some have heard bad stories about that with me. Anyway, we'll digress. So know how to work effectively with buyer's agents, know how to improve your offer acceptance and closing rates, which we'll talk about when we're working with the buyers, and how to generate and networking with BPOs. Make a sound choice for your business. REO, the reality in you exercises. So next. They waste a lot of slides. All right. You can go past all the 4 conversations. Prisoner. Nobody here is a prisoner. I hope everyone's an explorer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're vacationing too much, it's going to be a problem in the next 60 to 90 days. Next. Am I right or am I right?
You're right.
That's it. All right, so the distressed property timeline, right? So you need to know it and consult expertly. Markets just happen. So you guys also understand, like, by law, there's a time frame. And then Whether or not the bank decides to execute on that time frame is up to them. However, here's how it works. The minute you miss the payment on your mortgage, after you're 30 days late, you are now technically in default. The bank can then go forward and file a notice of default. Is that the next slide? Okay. So they're talking about the 4 primary causes, right? So we have a, you know, we're not really in a negative equity from the market value shift. We will be. Right now, it's the unemployment and the fact that the like 90% of the economy is completely on hold due to a virus. So consumer confidence is the one thing like that we can't quantify. Those of you who are working with buyers right now, I'm sure you're seeing it where buyers think that they can just go out and, you know, write any ridiculous offer they want and have it get accepted. That's not the reality, at least not right now. Now, when inventory swells at exponential levels, here probably in the next, say, 90 days, then you're going to start seeing buyers be in the driver's seat as far as pricing and terms and conditions. But right now, that's not our reality. Next. So we're going through the 4 primary causes. Right now, let's just focus on what our reality is. We can shift through all the different primary causes. Right now, we've seen the market go up every year for the last 10 years, at least here in Southern California. Now, a normal market shift, a normal market goes in 7 to 10 year swings, right? So 7 to 10 years, it comes up. The market was already looking for a correction, and we just gave it a huge excuse by unemploying 30 million people and putting ourselves inside of our houses for the last 45 days. So we can see that there's not every shift is the same, but it has similar traits as far as what the aftermath of it is. Next. We're going to be moving fast today because we got, like I said, this is supposed to be a 1.5 hour presentation on its own. The role of unemployment, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? No income, you know, how are you going to pay your bills? People are going to be coming to the real life situations right now. It's food on the table for my kids or pay the mortgage. You know, I mean, that's going to be a real conversation for a lot of people very, very soon, especially when we're talking about Americans who, generally speaking, have less than 2 months reserves. Most don't even have 1 month. So this is going to become a real problem. And it's also going to start affecting landlords too, whereas tenants aren't going to be paying rent. And there's only so many landlords that are going to sit there and front mortgage payments on houses that they're not collecting rents on. So it's going to be pretty widespread. Just bear with it and get ready to take advantage. So if you're in the right position at the right time, you can make a lot of money. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. Next. This is just over the years. Personal crises, as we see right now, you have unforeseen medical expenses. These are personal shift causes, right? There's always going to be people that, there's probably a lot of divorces coming up soon. There's going to be a lot of people getting pregnant and needing bigger houses. There's going to be job loss, maybe even job transfers where the company says, look, we're shutting down the California operations. We're bringing everybody back to Dallas. You can come or you can stay there unemployed. Your choice. That's a real possibility that can happen and has happened. I'll give you a story on that later when we start talking about asset managers and how we were able to branch out from one bank into another. So next. You can go past all these causes. We don't really need to know all this. All right, so the distressed personal property timeline, right? So like we said before, number one, you miss a payment. 30 days later, the bank can file what's called a notice of default, meaning you're in default on your mortgage. Now in California, from the date they file a notice of default, the consumer, the person holding the mortgage has 90 days to make that default correct. If they do not correct the default, then they go into what's called a notice of trustee sale, which is where they're saying we're going to auction the house off at the county court steps. That would be step 4 in here. Step 5 is the foreclosure. Now, if a property is sold at the county court steps, it goes to an investor or a company where they bought it cash, sight unseen, all sales are final. If it does not get sold at the auction at the county, then the bank takes it back and it becomes what they call REO or real estate owned. And then the bank assigns it to a broker to start working on. Then they work on getting the tenants out, or either the tenants or the owners out of the property via, usually speaking, a cash for keys settlement and incentive to get them to move in lieu of having to go through the whole eviction process. And then that was when it really gets hairy, when you go through the eviction process. And trust me, that's not fun. We don't really see many redemption or reinstatements. I've never personally seen one done. I know Red, Anaya, and our market center has had some success in the past of getting a reinstatement done after the fact, but they're very rare. And so I can't speak intelligently on that topic. However, I know there are people who can get them done, but they're just not very common. Okay, market shift. So they're talking about the different types of foreclosure types. So we have conventional loans, the FHA and VA, which are the government loans. Those ones can go through HUD, which you have to be a special broker for HUD. That thing's a whole different animal all unto itself, where you have to write offers on original contracts with wet signatures, and you just have to FedEx them in and hope that your offer got accepted. I hope that they've increased that process since 2008. Short sales, trustee sales, or sheriff sales. Trustee sales here in California, which is the actual auction at the courthouse. And then once it does not, if it does not sell at the county courthouse, it gets assigned as, when the bank takes it back, to an asset manager, who then sends it off to a listing agent, and then we work on getting it vacant, BPOs done, repairs done if needed, and get on the market and get it sold. Go. Okay, so they're talking about the different steps along the ways. They really should have done short sales first and then REOs. However, so the pre-foreclosure sales are simply that, right? So you will have notice of defaults coming up where people actually have equity. Now this is your opportunity number one, where you can step inside, help someone liquidate that asset without having to go through the short sale process. If they still have equity, they can still sell. Just the timeline is really, really fast. You want to move forward on it quickly, because let's just be honest. If I'm Wells Fargo, okay, and the person who I have a mortgage for, or outstanding to, has $300,000 worth of equity. You know, the house is worth $700,000, they owe $4 million, and the market's declining. Am I going to be more or less likely to pull the trigger fast on that foreclosure? Because my investment right now is protected with the equity. So the people can sit there and they can wait. They can wait and wait and wait and wait. I think I'm going to get a forbearance. I'm going to get a loan modification. I'm going to get all this stuff. And to be honest, in my experience, it was the people with the most amount of equity got foreclosed on the fastest and with the least amount of negotiations from the bank. That was my experience in 2008, 9, 10, where those people who had the most equity were the ones that were foreclosed on the fastest, because the bank wanted to protect their investment with the collateral of the property before the value diminished even more. So these are all different types of foreclosures that can happen. You know, short sales, Dave is going to go into that a little bit later, so we don't really need to talk about that. And then pre-listing auctions, you know, I think they're referring to those as mainly the auction at the courthouse. It's not uncommon too, when an REO gets taken, they sell a bulk of them to a big institutional investor, where they'll buy 40 homes from the bank at once if they become really widespread. And then you can go to the next slide. So this is an exercise you guys can do on your own. Exactly how well can you explain the timeline? Now, they're going to vary. They may vary state to state. I'm not exactly sure. I can tell you in California, it's 30 days from the missed payment. Once that's 30 days late, notice of default. After the notice of default, 90 days to file the notice of trustee sale. And then when they file the notice of trustee sale, the date gets assigned of when they're going to auction it off at the courthouse.
It's usually 21 days.
Usually 21 days? Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Now, the bank can choose to postpone it, which becomes pretty common when they get overwhelmed. So we would see situations like this in 2008, where a notice of trustee sale had been filed for 2 years and they hadn't even foreclosed. And they just kept pushing it out 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. So it's not uncommon, but just know that that's the minimum time frame, is about 30, 90s, 120. So around 140, 150 days. So you can see how we're talking about, right? 60 to 90 days from now, you're going to start seeing that shift in the market because it's a 140 to 150 day process to go start to finish from the first missed payment. Okay. We already explained an REO. So a post foreclosure process taken by the lender, investor, or the representative. The bank's asset manager or investor may be the owner, referred to as the bank or lender. So basically what it is it was a foreclosure that did not get auctioned off. The REO process is just plain different. You can get a conventional loan. You don't have to pay cash. The bank sets value with the BPO with input from the listing agent, right? It's not 3 comps. It's 3 actives, 3 closed, adjustments made. Most of you guys have been around for a while. You've seen an appraisal on some level. It looks exactly like the U.S. residential appraisal report that they use for conforming loans. I'm almost identical to it. It goes in the MLS. Multiple offers are considered. The funding must be ironclad, okay? And generally speaking, like the contingency timeframes and conditions, as is, that's it, no ifs, ands, or buts. And they're reasonably speedy. They're like a normal escrow once you get them into escrow. So the bank will sign that, the asset manager will sign on behalf of the bank. You will be using the bank's title company. Generally speaking, the person who handled the foreclosure will be the one issuing the new title to the new buyer. Okay. The key difference is you're dealing with an institutional seller. Negotiations and closing are handled by different departments. The HOA is often in collections. Processing often happens out of state. You know, for us here in Irvine, California, almost all of Fannie Mae in the nation was handled right here in Irvine, California. So we were fortunate as Southern California natives. We worked closely with the asset managers geographically. However, it wasn't uncommon for them to be working Dallas and Atlanta, right in Irvine, California. So
The HUD one or closing statement.
yeah, so the closing statement is a multi-party and a slow process. This is key. This is why your lender has to be on top of their game and getting everything into the escrow department prior to, significantly ahead of closing time. Because a lot of times with these bank-owned processes, when you're in escrow, if the buyer doesn't close on time, there's a per diem charge. And it could take 2 to 3 days to get a closing statement signed off by the asset manager and the bank with full approval. Last minute document changes and approvals can be slow and almost impossible. They don't like to add names. They don't like to do any of that stuff. So make sure you have all your ducks in a row when you're writing the offer on these properties. You can skip past all this. So Gary talks about this perfect storm. The government pushed for more homeownership in the 90s when the market was just coming back up. The market started going up in 1991 all the way to 2005, 2006, depending on where you're at. And then in 2007, that's when everything started to shift. And by 2008, it was biblical or epic, depending on what you want to say. We had a lot of aggressiveness, right? We had stated income, no doc, in some situations we had mortgages where you didn't have to have a credit score to qualify. You just had to have 3 alternative trade sources. There was a lot of finicky stuff going on in those days, and a lot of safeguards were put in place to mitigate that risk and prevent that from happening again. So that's the good news. There's not going to be any big subprime bubble like we had in 2008. Most people in their homes today could afford them because they were qualified on full payments, not being or full documentation. Now that the issue is that they aren't making the money that they used to. That's the issue right now at hand. However, in the past, they were adjustable rates. They owed more. They were negative amortization, where they owed more money at the end of the year. Lots of crazy stuff was going on. So, and the low interest rates are really pushing up the price. So, the good news too is that really the housing market did not start building more homes, at least here in Southern California, where we had oversupply. So we've been in deficit for housing for a long time now, because new construction just started coming back about 4 or 5 years ago, whereas from 91 to 2006, 2007, we were overbuilt. So there was a surplus of supply already on the market, and then people going into default created even more surplus. So we'll go to the next. Okay, I got 10 minutes left, and I want to get to the important stuff about how to find the REOs and how to work on them. Can you fast forward to those slides?
tell me when.
Okay. All right. So here's how it works, right? So we had, and everyone should start looking right now at the top asset managers and mortgage servicing companies in your area. Like I said, we worked for American Home Mortgage Servicing, which was the largest private mortgage servicing company in the nation at the time.
I did Bank of America.
And neither did Bank of America. And so you can register to be a listing agent on their site, free of charge, generally speaking. And you want to start that process now. You want to apply to be an agent for them now, because you have to be on the list in order to get the assignments. And then what really happens is you start to develop a relationship once you start getting the assignments. Now, generally speaking, what you'll end up doing is you'll be doing BPOs for free for the bank, or maybe they'll give you $150 for one, and then they'll decide who gets the listing out of who did the BPO. You know, it's a race to get it done and get it done accurately. So you want to familiarize yourself with that process. Where we shined is that we had relationships with people at American Home Mortgage Servicing, and then they knew asset managers who went to Fannie Mae. And so we were approved on both lists. We never got any assignments from Fannie Mae until a couple of the asset managers left OMSI and went to Fannie Mae. And that's when we really started to take flight, to the point where 99% of our business was Fannie Mae directly from the asset managers. And you know, that was it. We dealt directly with them. We didn't go through a third party company. The emails you're getting now where they're talking about join us, sign up to be on our bank owned list, you'll be working through a third party company that, you know, you'll have to pay a referral fee basically to on the REO listing. So it's a very detail oriented process. You have to follow strict timelines. You have to make sure your reports are done properly and on time or early. They have a report card on the back end that your ability to handle and get assignments is based solely on what that report card says. They measure a bunch of key metrics. From the time we send you the assignment, how fast are you getting the people out of the property? From the time you get them out of the property, how fast are you executing the BPO? Once we get the BPO done, how fast can you get it on the market and how fast are you selling it? And then are you doing the weekly marketing reports? Are you closing on time? Are you, like, all these things come into a grade, and if you show to them that you can't handle 3 listings, they're not going to give you 6. In fact, they're going to go lower than 3. So just keep that in mind.
Hey, Mark.
You're going to be, yes.
Sorry, I wanted to jump in before, if we go to the next topic. I just had a question about this business model in general, but keep going on what you're on right now.
Oh no, a lot of times you're going to have to put utilities on in your name. My partners and I, it wasn't uncommon for us to have, at the time, we had to front cash for keys money and all the utilities wait for reimbursement. So, I mean, we'd have $65,000 to $70,000 outstanding waiting for reimbursement from Fannie Mae at any given point in time. So it can be a challenging business source. That's why I think really right now, when you really don't have any control, someone's deciding how much you eat rather than how much you're going to get fed, if that makes sense. But it's a key component to our business, and it can be very, very lucrative. Just realize that you lose a lot of control, and it's really, really hard to kind of come back into the sales business and learn how to hunt for yourself once you're relying on someone feeding you.
And if you don't have the right leverage, it can take its toll on you.
Yeah, and if you don't have systems and leverage in place, I mean, we had 2 guys that did nothing but run and post notices for us, do the lockouts, and take photos and send us a list of repairs. We had another guy who did nothing but the BPOs and the repairs. We had a full-time transaction coordinator who used to be an escrow assistant and a loan processor. So she knew the process inside and out. And then we had a full-time girl who did nothing but turn on utilities and submit for reimbursements. And then myself, Tyler, and Brian, we just listed the properties and negotiated the contracts. That's all we did. So if it was just the 3 of us, we would have probably maxed out at like 60 or 70.
So you're kind of answering the question I was going to ask, which is, it obviously is a lot of extra work and a lot of what I would consider extra messy work with, evicting people and waiting for reimbursements and all this stuff. And I've also I've been on the buy side of a lot of these and seen the smaller commission rates that they typically are paying. And I was just, my question was like, what makes it worth it? Because I know a lot of people have built big businesses off of this, and what it's like, you're kind of saying, you have to be able to put all the right people in place to run the systems and scale it. Because the dollars themselves don't, it's like,
you gotta operate on volume, straight volume.
Okay.
It's highly systematized. I mean, I'd never read MREA at the time, but we were operating a pretty high level team, probably 5th or 6th level at that point.
Okay.
To the point where Brian and Tyler and I, we literally, all we did was we pulled the comps to send to the guy for the BPO. And then we just put the property in the MLS and we just negotiated the contracts, and that was it. Once the contract was accepted, it went to TC. She went contract to close on it, and we were on to the next one.
Without the right systems and leverage in place, it's a recipe for disaster.
I can see that.
It really is, just because of the amount of paperwork that you have to submit to the banks. And it was kind of before when I started. I started off with Countrywide, and who's obviously failed and sold all of their assets over to Bank of America. So that's how I got with Bank of America. And they were still not really great at their systems and the systems that they used.
Yep.
So it was a challenge to learn their systems, and then they turn around and they change it. I'm very confident now that their system has improved.
They're not running Equator anymore.
I think they are on Equator, because when I first started with them, they weren't on Equator or REO Trans or whatever they renamed it. But it's a process, and it's if you don't have an assistant or like Mark had in place, it's overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. At the end of 2011, I was ready to get out of the business because I was burnt out, but I made a lot of money.
Yeah, and you can switch to the next one. I'm trying to get. We're only halfway through the slides, and I'm almost out of time. So I just want to make sure I get the hot topics, right? So the REO business, like Alex, we were talking about, it could be it could be very lucrative. It's not. How do I say this?
It's not all sunshine and roses.
It's not. It was actually very, very taxing on my soul, because I got into real estate to help people and help people build their dreams. And, we're basically profiting off of the loss of their dreams. So, I mean, you can make the argument that someone's got to do it. I personally, even though I had to rebuild everything from the ground up once it was all dried up, I was really kind of relieved that it was over. To be honest, it just was not fun. I mean, having to go, knock on the door of a family and tell them that they got to move. It's not very fulfilling, So I'm telling you that because I want you guys to understand that, out of all the sources of business, this is going to be this will probably be a big part of it. But there's other things too. I mean, so you got to have your kind of like, you got to diversify your lead sources and your business. So that way you can kind of adapt to what's going on, to like what they call the market of the moment. I generated a lot of buyers though, and off of the sign calls. So we work buyers a lot.
Yeah,
too.
I double-ended a lot of properties.
I double-ended a lot of transactions. And so, that's it. So,
Mark, wouldn't you also say in that same vein that you're really touching base with a lot of investors and would-be investors? So new first-time investors, if you will, as a result of this source of business?
Yeah, I mean, we picked up a lot. We picked up a lot of investors. We picked up a lot of.
You have the ability to build long-term human-client relationships as opposed to bank relationships.
Exactly. So I mean, like I'd say a lion's share of my database right now are buyers that I met, helped through that process. Investors. So I mean, like right now, if you guys aren't already working on building a pool of investors, get to it like as soon as we end the call, because they're going to be gold. They're going to be gold. I mean, find high wealth individuals that own, 5 or more properties in your county, because those are the ones with money, and those are the ones that be looking to really double down on their efforts moving forward into these distress sales. Go to slide 50, see what that's all about. Okay, review the mindset map. So again, you've got to be on the roster in order to get the opportunity for the banks. So do some research, do some homework, find out who's got the most pull in your area, and start that application process. That being said, you have to build relationships, because just because you're on the roster doesn't mean you get an assignment. I knew people who got 2 or 3 assignments from Fannie Mae a year, and then there was us who got 150. And Fannie Mae, I can speak from experience on Fannie Mae, they're really, really restrictive as to your geographic area. So they're going to only give you assignments within a certain window, depending on, like California, 15 miles is a long way radius, population wise. So they would only let us go like 20 miles out from our office. And so that was a rule. So I mean, we dominated the Inland Empire.
You had an empire in the Inland Empire.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, next slide, please. Yeah, so stressful workloads, cost crunch, turnover in the ranks, need a reliable real estate to help evaluate and sell the property, right? Again, I'm not gonna say it was soul sucking.
It was soul sucking.
But it was tough. I remember evicting an 80-year-old lady out of her house. Okay, that was not exactly the best day of my life. So I'm just gonna be real with you guys about it, right? So I'm gonna spend like 5 more minutes on the turnover to David, because in David's situation, you can actually control your listings and your sources, because you can talk about working on selling it before it gets to this standpoint, and you can help somebody save their credit and maybe even walk away with a little bit of money in their pocket still, if you can sell them while they notice a default with equity still. Any questions so far on REOs? I'd like to just do 5 minutes Q&A rather than try and run through 40 slides real fast.
David Shakin has a question. Having a few investors now, they are all new, 2 years in. What should we be telling them right now to build excitement and or willingness to continue investing?
Okay, so what should you be telling them now? Tell them to start liquidating and filling their pockets. Because I don't think the real deals are going to start popping until probably close to end of summer. That would be my guess, just based on the timelines of where you have to go from, oh crap, I missed my payment, to, yeah, someone's knocking on the door to get me out of the house. I was never a fan of buying houses at the trustee sale on the auction. Never done it. Well, I take that back. I did it once, because you're buying blind. You have no idea what the person's done to the house on the inside, number one. Number two, you're also buying it subject to superior liens. So if the second mortgage foreclosed, and you think you're going to get this killer deal, well, you're still buying it subject to the first mortgage and any delinquent taxes. And if you're not paying your mortgage, you're probably not paying your property taxes. Let's just be honest. So there could be hidden liens on those properties. They're all cash, and you got to close, and payments due at the time the gavel comes down and all sales are final.
I saw Naomi raised her hand. You
Yeah.
want to ask her a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Naomi. You're welcome, David.
No?
Anyone?
She can unmute herself by pressing the space bar.
You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hey, no, I did that by mistake, but I do have a question now that you just mentioned the auctions. I'm actually in the process of doing a tax sale that's similar to that, and what I'm being told is that once you buy the tax deed, it wipes away all the liens. Is that incorrect? Or do you know? It might be different in your state.
Yeah, it may be.
In Illinois, it depends on the county, really. So
Yeah.
you got to be careful with the county. I used to do REO here in Illinois and Fannie Mae and all that stuff. But when you're talking about tax sales, it really depends on your county. Make sure you understand the county law. Cook County versus Will County versus DuPage County, they are different on how that works.
Okay.
From what I've looked at, my understanding, and maybe this is just for Cook County, your tax lien is a senior lien, meaning you could go and take the property and the bank that has the mortgage doesn't get the property. So it's a senior lien. However, when you get ownership, it's still subject to the other. There's still going to be a mortgage on it. I think maybe that's my most recent exploration to that is what I was told by an attorney. So
Yeah.
And it's very rare that you'll get one that has a mortgage on it, because most mortgage companies will make sure they don't go to tax sale.
Right.
But
Yeah, they'll buy it. They'll make the lien proper, and then they usually have a subordination clause
Yep.
where because they didn't pay the taxes, the bank had to step in. Then now they have the right to foreclose on the property.
100%.
Generally speaking, do REO sales affect like-for-like exchanges? Not to my knowledge, no. Out here in the, what absorbed a lot of our workload as far as the listing agents on REOs was that institutional companies started coming in and buying blocks of these things, 40, 50 at a shot. So it was affecting our listing inventory because, we got an assignment. They're like, oh no, we're taking it back because we're selling it to, some hedge fund somewhere. So
There's another question. Can you do just BPOs, or is it the bank's expectation to perform the entire REO process?
So that's a great question. So I had friends that did BPOs in hopes that they would get the listing. From my personal experience, we were already in with relationships into the banks, so we only did BPOs on the properties we were listing. Now I know that for some of those, for my friends and my colleagues, it was a, for lack of a better word, a tryout process, if you will. So for them, it was a little bit different. Here, I'll tell you who's going to be your asset managers coming up: your loan processors and your underwriters. Because what will happen is when the market shifts and there's less volume in units, those people will have less work, less loans to process, less loans to underwrite. Okay, so the bank's going to start making changes in their employee base, but they know these people show up, they can be trusted, they know the process, they can fit in the culture. So they'll take them from processing loans or underwriting loans and put them into an asset manager position. So one of the ways you can start leveraging that position is to try and figure out who of your direct lenders are, also servicing their own loans, and start working on, building relationships there. So that way you can work those relationships to find out who the asset managers are and get good words in.
And I do believe there are companies out there that just do the BPOs, and they usually, it's minimal. It's literally like $40 to $100.
Mm-hmm.
Just depend on what the work that they want you to do. There are times where they'll have you do an interior inspection. So they'll pay you a little bit more. There are times where they'll just have you do a drive-by, and those are minimal, like I said, like $40 to.
Yeah. So go to HomePath.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I did BPOs. First, you need the BPOR designation. And then the banks contacted me, and I did the drive-bys with 3 photos, the BPO. And the prices range from $45 to $60 per BPO. And I did that for about 4 years.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so here are the 2 websites. Homepath.com is for Fannie Mae. Homesteps.com is for Freddie Mac. Those are the 2 biggest, buyers of mortgages in the nation. They probably buy 80% of the mortgages right now. So HomePath, Fannie Mae. HomeSteps, Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac's gonna be your higher end stuff. Fannie Mae lower end. Conforming loans, non-conforming loan limits.
In Illinois, I did a lot of REOs through ResNet as well.
That's another good point. Good one too. Yeah. So without further ado, I don't want to take too much of David's time. You guys, if you need my information, reach out to your leadership group. Otherwise, if you're my market center, call me, text me, whatever you need. So I can answer any of your questions directly. I'm going to hop onto the chat box. I'll answer all the questions that are typed in here, but I don't want to take too much of DR's thunder here.
All good, man. We also are going to be doing Q&A afterwards. So we'll roll it to we're here for you. Number one, we're here to serve you at the highest possible level. So don't worry about it. We'll take as long as we need to at the end. So I'm going to share my screen here. And you're going to get this. Can you guys see that? Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can see it.
Cool. All right. So I'm just going to dive in, and it's going to be like lightning fast. Is that okay? Okay.
Just call me Thunder.
Here we go. All right, so I got into real estate for two reasons. And one of the driving forces happened at the back end of my real estate experience, which was my first home purchase and first home sale. The first home purchase experience is for another day. The sale, though, is applicable to what it is right here, and I had to actually short sale my first home. I had to bring to closing $900, and I thought to myself as I was getting my real estate license, there has to be a better way to do this. Now, this was right in that midst when the market was getting ready to shift and began to crash is when I got into the real estate business, right? So the very first thing that I got into was short sales. That's how I started in the real estate business. That was my first real estate experience as a consumer. So I'm very passionate about it. Just want to hit you with some quick stats here. This is from fortune.com, is that there's already been, is what I'm seeing here, roughly 26.5 million jobless claims since March 13th of this year. Heading into March 13th, there was already 7 million, okay? So those are people who have filed unemployment. We're looking at almost 30 million people who have already filed unemployment from the 13th of March is what, and I've been promoting inside our Facebook group, has been like that ground zero date, March 13th, okay? So to piggyback on what Mark was teaching earlier is that what we have here beyond a shadow of a doubt is opportunity to be coming into people's lives in order to assist them in this sphere, specifically short sales. And one of the things that Mark had touched on is that there's going to be that moment where people are having that unemployment sector where they're going to have forbearance. That's an opportunity for them to try to save their home according to these mortgage companies, forbearance. Another one is once that's up, you're looking at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days down the road, that when that finally comes due, they're either going to have to pay it in full. They're either going to have to negotiate it so that it's spread out over the term of the loan, even on the back end of it. So they're increasing the loan time as well as the dollar amount, or it's being spread out over 12 months. Those are really the only three options. That, or it's default time, because forbearance is over. Are you tracking with me? Do you understand what I'm saying when I say that? That's going to be the path to short sales in 2020. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. I thought I was losing my mind. Okay, so negative equity is not going to be a thing that's going on here, right? The role of unemployment, though, is another thing entirely. I just touched on it, okay? There's going to be people, the Federal Reserve, what does it say? Mortgage delinquency tied to unemployment along with debt, more home prices, etc. Right, okay. Distressed property timeline. Unforeseen medical expenses. Now, okay, so that could definitely be some things that happen, right? Someone gets an unforeseen medical situation that's going to put them out of work, COVID-19, right? You've got family members who are on ventilators, they've passed, so on and so forth, right? No one's paying that mortgage payment. There's going to be people who have passed away or have had severe medical trauma because of this particular virus and this situation. And not only are they out of a job, but they're actually unfit to even work. And these banks may or may not care coming out of this thing. So when we talk about coming from having the heart of a servant and coming from a position of leadership and being the real estate economist of choice, this is your opportunity to really shine, right? Fantastic, good. Divorce is another opportunity that they could come into short sale, right? You're stuck at home with your spouse over the course of the last 45 plus days. That could be good. It could be bad. Just depends. Naive confidence can help. Overconfidence can hurt, right? This is the idea about primary causes, covering it again, okay? Distressed property timeline. Mark's covered some of this stuff already. I'm not going to dive super deep in some of these things. Some of this stuff you've already seen, right? You missed that first mortgage payment and or you went into forbearance, right? Notice of default. Deed in lieu, loan modification. These are other things that come forward. Okay. Different types of loans, right? You got conventional, FHA, VA, heading into the short sale market. Okay, so what is a short sale? A short sale is a contract between the buyer and seller with at least one contingency that the deal is approved by the seller's lender as a settlement for less than the full amount owed. Now, so usually you've got two things working in a short sale: condition and market value. And condition can drive market value for that particular home. So you can have a home that's worth $300,000. They can owe $220,000. And you might look at that, and the bank might look at that, and an appraiser might look at that, and they might say, short sale? How's that possible? Foreclosed, we're done. There's $80,000 in positive equity here. How's that possible? And yet if that condition of that home, think with me here, if they haven't been able to pay their mortgage payment, what is the likelihood that they've taken care of that home? Especially when you look at it as people who have barely been able to purchase homes, right? I'm talking about VA people who've put 0 down, FHA people who've put 3.5% down. Those of you who are in more rural situations, they put 0 down with a USDA loan. People who've had to have the maximum amount for closing costs. People who have already done refis in the last 12 months, 6 months, 18 months, that cashed out maybe even over the loan to value of 120%. Because they were pulling out debt, whatever the case may be, paying things off. These are other different variables that could be at work there. But you get it. The lender has to approve it. So the buyer and the seller agree to a price. The lender is the ultimate arbiter of whether or not that sale is going to go through. Period. Cool. You got it. Truth. When a customer asks, why a short sale? The shortest answer is that a short sale is a written negotiated settlement with agreed terms. A foreclosure is taking of their property with no terms and no written settlement, unless it's cash for keys or deed in lieu, which Mark sort of hinted at earlier. Fantastic. Okay, so what does a short sale accomplish? It's consumer protection. It's lender liability or REO avoidance. Because what you don't usually know and what's usually not explained is that for every foreclosure that a bank goes under, their lending power is severely hampered in order for them to turn around and give more money, right? That lending institution is a liability into itself with toxic assets. It's very difficult to give out hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars when you've got a plethora of foreclosures on the books. Lender cost reduction, it's cheaper for them to do it. Business building opportunity for agents, right? That's where we come in. Specific benefits for sellers, right? Foreclosure will follow you, right? In a short sale for most lenders. Now, obviously, we're in a weird climate in terms of lending where some people have overput overlays that raise that minimum credit score from 580 to 620. And yet, usually speaking, when someone faces a short sale, they can generally jump back into the housing market, FHA, 12 months later. So it's a huge thing to not be foreclosed on versus a short sale. So a foreclosure will follow you. That would be a reason why you should avoid it. Credit score as a negative impact. Eligibility for government insured loans. Possibility for deficiency judgments. Negative employment credit checks, right? It could even be the fact that you, without a proper letter of an explanation, if you lost your house and then you have to go and rent a house instead of living in mom and dad's basement playing video games the whole summer, you might have to do a short sale in order to save your credit so that you can qualify to go rent for that year, right? Negative on security clearances, lower tax liability than a foreclosure. Right? A win-win solution for everyone, or as I like to say, a win-win-win, right? You win for the seller, you win for the buyer, and a win for me because I got to solve the whole thing. Relief for homeowners, bargain for buyers, lender's liability reduced, and agent client for life potential is extremely high. So you want to talk about like building your database at a high and incredible level? How about saving somebody's opportunity for avoiding foreclosure, right? I mean, what kind of a reputation will you have in that person's life? Phenomenal, for certain. Pricing on BPO and appraisal. These are just how it's just different. Special terms and addenda. Multiple offers are discouraged. It's true, they are.
David, can I say something real quick?
Please jump in.
Well, when I would call on notice of defaults, you know, it's a touchy subject because you're talking to somebody who doesn't have their payment made. And it was like, look, I'm just calling to see if anybody's talked to you about the different resources and tools you have available to help you save your home. You know, in California, we have Keep Your Home California. It's a public website funded with stimulus money still to help people avoid foreclosure. And again, to what David said, if you can help someone save their home in a time of need, yeah, you're going to lose one transaction. I can tell you from personal experience, my best resources, my best referral sources to this day are people who I helped save their home. And Red gets one that he helped save in our office. She sends him 4 or 5 transactions a year. Has for like 8 years now. And so you know, I mean, so like that was always my script, was like, look, I'm just wondering if anybody's talked to you about the different options you have available to you. And you know what, if we exercise all those means, then yeah, I mean, selling the home is definitely the last option. You know, I'm trying to help you because I have access to the information that you don't. So just, that was my 2 cents. I wanted to share that.
100%, absolutely. That's an excellent script. And that's really what it is, because you're leading in with that, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve you in a capacity that your bank has obviously not done you any justice. Now, in some instances, a bank may go to them directly and say, hey, call a realtor. Like that has happened recently even, right? Maybe not back in the day in 07, 08, 09, 2010. But nowadays, if they're 30 days past, what are the conversation pieces that these asset managers are having with the borrower is that, hey, do you know a realtor? For sure, for certain. Perfect. But Mark's absolutely right. You're calling from a place of contribution in order to give them something that looks like hope, because it is, right? So pre-foreclosure alternatives besides a short sale, they're saying personal reasons, legal reasons, because of extreme negative equity, kind of so on and so forth. Discouraged humility, may not understand or accept the benefits. I mean, Mark kind of touched on that a little bit. You're coming from a place where it's a very vulnerable spot. And you have to think of it this way. In real estate, we're already approaching people in a very, very vulnerable situation, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands, and in California's case, millions of dollars worth of money that's moving from one place to another. And people are vulnerable as it is. Now you're talking about a place where they don't have a job. There's some inadequacies in terms of how they're feeling as a human being. And for you to be able to step in and provide support is really what is fundamentally center to a short sale. Continuing down here. You've talked about forbearance already. Right of redemption and reinstatement is super, super rare, especially in this kind of a situation. That's more of a tax sale situation. Someone had mentioned tax sales earlier. There is probably more opportunity for a right of redemption or reinstatement or the remainder period than a short sale. It just doesn't happen. Kind of cruising here. Mindsets. You kind of get all that. Lenders, right? They're weighing the cost of foreclosing and creating an REO situation, overwhelming volume on files, staffing problems. So that's really brilliant. So if you've already got here's how you can do a double-edged sword. So Mark talked about earlier how now is the time for you to be contacting your local banks, your local mortgage servicing companies who you may have a relationship with or who you want to establish a relationship with, and you already want to be on the cutting edge of working with these people, not even so much on the BPO side, but who do you have and whom I can help on the short sale side? Because I'll bet you if you have a strong enough relationship with that particular individual or in that superstructure where they're handling those type of case files and those assets, that you're going to be on the front lines to get the REO listing in the event that you've shown your quality on the short sale side. I'm just thinking maybe that could be the case to work both sides of the equation, either way, if there ever was an opportunity for you to build relationships with mortgage servicing companies and acquire short sale listings, now would be that time as well, for certain. All right. You guys kind of get this stuff. Listing agents. So it's talking about the mindset, psychologist and grief counselor. This is true. I mean, you're talking about people who've lived in their home. I don't care if it's been 12 months, 18 years. Their pet dog is buried in the backyard. They've built memories here. Maybe they're running a small mini hobby farm. They've got horses. I mean, I've seen it all. I've seen it all in 14 years, man. And so it's you're a master of patience, persistence. You got to have organized systems, all of that stuff. Everything that Mark had talked about kind of piggybacks on there. Short sale process. All right, I'm going to fly through this in about 3 minutes. Okay, the short sale process looks like this. They've defaulted. Okay? And once they've defaulted and you've built that relationship with them, the key is the short sale package. The short sale package is going to contain a hardship letter. It's going to contain all their documents in terms of their financial hardships. And all of that's going to be turned over to the bank in terms of their loss mitigation department. That loss mitigation department is then going to approve or deny that hardship in order to move forward with the process where then you can turn over your listing contract as well as your third-party representation agreement. Now, if you've got solid systems in place, the best thing for you to do, and this is speaking from Indiana, it might be tweaked a little bit if you're in California because your guys' setup is a little different than ours, is that you're going to want a transaction coordinator listed on that third-party representation agreement, anybody on your team who would be fielding questions. So if you're a solo agent, that's fine. And then your title company. Most title companies out here can help you process short sales in Indiana. I don't know about Illinois if it's the same. I know you guys do have Fidelity National Title, and actually you guys might even have an advantage. Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lawyer could help you through that process in terms of, because you guys are an attorney state, of helping on the short sale process as well. Am I right about that?
That's the only way to do it.
That's the only way to do it in Illinois. So
but you can do it yourself. I strongly recommend against it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be really good with negotiating and know who you're talking to. Yeah. I mean, I negotiate a lot of short sales through Equator and through ResNet, but it's time consuming, and we have everybody here using an attorney, might as well leverage them. There's some really good attorneys that specialize in short sales.
And in California, I guarantee you, if your transaction coordinator has been in the business more than 10 years, they probably have short sale negotiation experience, and they take a portion of the commission. Generally speaking, it's about 0.5 point. And it's money well spent. You will literally spend 40 to 50 hours of paperwork to process a short sale in the state of California. So leverage it out. It's a bargain. It's a steal for 0.5 point.
Yeah, the best ones that handle
shift in paperwork, email, all that stuff. Alex, yeah.
I'll just say that the best ones, the attorney isn't doing all the legwork. They have a paralegal or more than one paralegal who only work the short sale files, and that's all they do is work short sale files. So they know which lenders act this way and what's the secret to getting through with this one. And, I've done this many with this one, and every time they always do this. I mean, that's all the stuff that unless you suddenly become an experienced specialist in negotiating short sales, you're not going to know, and they do know. So even aside from the time savings of not doing it yourself, you don't have the expertise to know the best way to approach a lot of that. And I think actually you'll end up doing the client a disservice by trying to put together all these documents and stuff and drag out the process and make some mistakes along the way that a specialized professional wouldn't make. So I would strongly recommend getting an attorney and paralegal that focus on those and have them handle it.
Yeah, fantastic.
If you sell the house.
For sure. Yes, right. Stay in your lane and what you know. So in Illinois, as an attorney state, find someone who specializes in it, someone who is deep and heavy in the game for that 4 or 5 period of time, year period of time. Find those attorneys. It sounds like Mark is suggesting that you have a dynamite transaction coordinator that's going to be able to streamline that process. And if you're in Indiana, I know the Fidelity National Title does their 24/7 processing, does process short sales for you, hand in glove. So they work with you and the bank. for sure. And our transaction coordinator, who's amazing, her name's Bethany. I'm helping her along the ways because I'm still working short sales. I just sold one in January, as a matter of fact, and I've got another one I've listed last month. So I do 2 to 4 short sales a year. They just find me. It is what it is. Yes. So 10 steps on a short sale. You got to pre-qualify the seller, right? Where's their delinquencies at, and where can you assist in the process? You got to assemble the package. This is a partnership. If this seller is not in it, if they're not interested, it's done. It's done. Listing the home. Alex's most important point. It's your job to sell it. The least you can do with the paperwork, the better off you're going to be. Your 2 most important jobs is marketing and negotiating. That's it. You have to be a rock solid negotiator, and you have to have ice in your veins, man. If anyone's watching those Bulls documentaries right now, The Last Dance, you're watching MJ, that killer instinct, or you're watching my boy Kobe when he was doing his thing, same thing, man. You got to have ice in those veins when you're negotiating with these people, because these banks don't care. They don't care. So you got to have compassion for the human, but you got to have ice in the veins when you're dealing with the banks. All right, obtain an offer. That means you got an offer. Woohoo! You got to submit it with everything else. Follow up is key. You have to be following up with that bank religiously, like it consumes you, or you'll never get it done. Negotiate, obviously, appraisal. It's always a sketchy and fun time. The file is approved and then the deal closed. On average, a short sale in this market, prior to COVID, 60, 90 days, not unheard of. 120 days happens. The last one that I closed this past January, Corey's on the call, I'm pretty sure it was 18 months. He lived through my misery there at the end. He knows what I'm talking about. It was rough. 18 months for a short sale. In a good market. It happens, guys.
Yeah, that was a long one.
It was a long one, man. It was crazy. But so, and that's before COVID, right? So you get it. All right, there's a few things I want to do off script here that I feel are super important I want to talk about. This is what the 11 package ingredients, right? Hardship letter, I talked about that. Listing agreement, third-party rep letter, which is authorization letter, financial statements, right? They're going to have to provide all those things, bank statements, tax return. It's just like qualifying for a loan, but to get out of the loan, okay? Fully executed purchase agreement when you got it. Short sale disclosure form, which is in your local MLS or attorney-approved documents, depending on what state you're in. Buyer pre-approval letter, proof of funds if it's a cash deal. Also, if it's a cash deal, they're going to need articles of incorporation, the operating agreement, who can sign, all of that stuff. Prelim HUD. That's why you got to have a tight relationship with these title companies, because that prelim HUD has to look golden, or they're kicking it back out and you're waiting again. CMA or a BPO or an additional appraiser. Fax cover sheet, which, believe it or not, they do. So in the email form, whether some places still want you to fax it, 99% of them are good with email, or some of them will make you work in Equator, even on a short sale, man. So you're going to have whatever the loan number is in that subject line. No different than you would on a fax cover sheet. Same exact thing. And that's pretty much it. I mean, once you get into the, it's talking about lead generation here. Probably should just cover that. Your database, obviously, current clients, your present listing appointments, other agents who hate working with banks. Another lead generation source is that you can go back in the MLS, or you can partner with a title company, or however you want to derive your data, and you can look at the last 5 years of who purchased homes, FHA and VA, for certain. And know that if you're in an area and in a community where there's more non-essential jobs than essential jobs, and depending on that price point and when they purchase that at, these could be opportunities for you to reach out to these people, reach out to the other agent, say, hey, have you checked on that sale that you had 2-3 years ago? I'll pay you a 20% referral fee if the listing price is right, in order for you to check on them and refer that short sale over to me if in fact they need it. And it's a great conversation piece and leverage if you want them to come and work with you side by side, as opposed to a colleague at another firm. maybe they're a good fit for the firm that you're at. Think, maybe. I don't know. If you're building relationships, why not? Okay. Last thing. We talked a little bit about conventional foreclosures. There's another thing called their FHA, Freddie Mac, and Fannie Mae foreclosures as well. HUD short sales. It's a catch net 86%. This is super important, especially because of all the different types of short sales that are out there. These ones are going to be the more prevalent. Okay. What that means is that they have to net 86% of the appraised price, including having you paid, the title company paid, them paid, everybody. In their pocket, they got to walk away with 86%. So if it's 100,
And those Illinois property taxes.
100%, property taxes, everything. Right, yep. Now, the nice thing about short sales, in my experience, is that you're guaranteed that 6%, man. They won't pay an admin fee, but that 6% is all day long money. Good money. But it just takes a while to close it. They won't go over 6, but 6% is what they're paying out. Of course, check with your managing broker, blah, blah, blah. I'm not guaranteeing that's what you're going to make. You get the disclosure. That's just, that's my personal experience. Any questions? Breakneck speed, man. Any questions about short sales? I don't see the chat box. Help me, somebody.
Oh, let's see.
None for now.
None for now. Okay. If there's none for now, Mark, do you want to jump into buyers and then freeform Q&A?
Okay, yeah. But while Anita pulls up that PowerPoint, I added some more sources. So Ubaldo mentioned ResNet, Equator. That's where Bank of America does all of their asset management, whether it's short sales or the REOs. American Home Mortgage Servicing that I worked with is now Ocwen, OCWEN. And then HUD.gov is where the federally government, like federal backed mortgages get foreclosed on and go through. So HUD.gov, they won't talk to you until your designated broker is registered. They don't even want to hear from you. So your designated broker has to become registered as an approved broker for HUD. But these are 6 websites that you can kind of start getting yourself familiar with and you know, resources, if you will, for, you know, what's to come, you know. I can't remember who Wells and Chase do their negotiations through. In full disclosure, the short sales I did, I hired a negotiator for all of them. I didn't do many because I was too busy doing REOs. However, when I did do them, they were all processed through a professional negotiator because those of you who know me know how much I despise paperwork and chasing it. So
yeah. So for me, like on the short sale side, I love being in charge of negotiating it because there is no better satisfactory feeling than sticking it to the bank. As someone who was spurned by the bank, right? I told you what my first initial thing was. There's no better gratification than sticking it to the bank when they want to offer zero help. Now, in this situation, they're offering forbearance. It's a little bit different. In most people's situations, they just have recklessly given money when people shouldn't have. And yes, there's a responsibility on the consumer side, but if someone's telling you yes, 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 with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line and promise you the American dream, and then they pull the rug out from underneath you and they don't give you any help or consultation or nothing, that's when my negotiation skills and the bear claws come out real fierce because I'm fighting tooth and nail for that short sale client. It means a lot to me. Anyways, that's just my personal spot there. And Anita's pulling that up. I'm gonna hit you with a couple more facts here. Is that you can actually short sale multi-units, 1 to 4 units can be short sold through FHA and VA for that matter. And if a home was used as a rental property for no more than 18 months, it can be short sold. Some other interesting things in terms of what would be considered, okay, a hardship. So these are definitions of hardships. These are really fascinating. I'm going to copy and paste this and put it in the chat, and then we're going to jump into the buyer side. But I thought this was interesting. and this is very key. It could be you, or it could be a family member who supports you that experiences financial, emotional, or both of a person who you rely on as support, and they've suffered a hardship such as unemployment, a reduced income, including furloughs, new job, partner's job loss, or a pay cut, illness or medical emergency, job transfer, voluntary or involuntary, divorce, separation, or marriage difficulties, exotic mortgage terms. I don't know what that means. Military service, death in the family, incarceration, increased expenses and excessive debt, unexpected repairs or home maintenance. And I would include on there complications from COVID-19. So you're going to see people who are going to be able to initiate these short sales in that kind of a scenario. I'm going to put that in the chat, and then me and Mark are going to tag team this buyer side out. Let's go.
All right. So working with buyers on distressed properties, right? So, I mean, we're pressed for time, and I don't want to cut this short. And so bear with us if we go over a few minutes. I apologize. I respect all of your times, and I really do. However, I will say this. I can sum it up really, really quickly. One, you're not going to have any control over services when dealing with an REO. The REO services are going to be selected ahead of time through the banks. Two, the property is going to be sold as is. As is. Now, the key there is this. Everyone thinks that it's because the banks are being cheap and they're being tightwads and they're this and they're that. That has nothing to do with it. Well, maybe a little bit. But for the banks, so you're talking about companies worth billions and billions and sometimes in some situations trillions of dollars. They can't take on the liability of a repair moving forward. Say Fannie Mae does, replaces some electrical for a client, for a buyer, and then 6 years from now the house has a fire. That buyer is going to sue the bank for haphazard electrical, whether it was related or not. So that's why they will sell it as is. That's it. They're going to use their own contracts as addendums to your local contracts. Those are non-negotiable. It's a whole different process on how to submit your offer, and it needs to be followed to a T. You're going to realize that once we shift into this, most of the banks started, like on REOs, will start to really, really aggressively price their properties to generate multiple offers. And as a listing agent on an REO, if you don't follow the process that I've outlined, I had a 14-page PDF as a supplement in the MLS on how exactly to write the offer and submit it. And for me, it was the first pre-qualification as to what agents I did not want to work with. If you can't follow the simple instructions that I took my own time to lay out, then you know what? In some situations, it was not uncommon for me to have 30 to 40 offers on a property because these banks won't take an offer for a certain amount of time. Most of them are 7 to 10 days, depending on who the bank was and what time of year. So that property had to sit seasoned on the market for 7 to 10 days, generally 5 to 6% under market value, and the bidding war begins. Oh, and by the way, they were offering like 4% co-ops and $1,500 bonuses if sold within the first 30 days. So agents were coming in droves to show these properties and write offers on them. So the best thing you can do for yourself really, really is try to get a relationship with the listing agent when you're bringing a buyer in on that, because you want to have that relationship with them and come very competently speaking, because if you come like screwed up, not knowing what you're doing and asking the same questions over and over and over again, especially when they have documents or like a form on how to do it, you're really going to aggravate that agent, and it's going to be counterproductive, that conversation, because they're dealing with, like I said, like we were dealing with, like we'd have 30 to 40 properties going at any given time with a dozen offers on them. I don't have time to sit here and address with you what I told you to do in the MLS. Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's just not enough time in the day, right? So that's what the REOs. I mean, it's really like it's the age-old thing, right? The golden rule: he who has the gold makes the rules. So if you want to buy an REO, you're playing by their rules, as is seller's choice of services, using their addendum, which is probably going to sign away most of your buyer's rights in the transaction. But the positive side is you're going to get a property at a deal. I mean, really, I mean, that's why you're doing it. That's why you're willing to put up with their crap, because you're going to get a deal on the property. And so, you know, you have to play by the rules in order to get that opportunity. The first rule in making any money in real estate is you got to buy something first. You can't build any equity if you don't own anything. You can't flip a property that you haven't bought. So you've got to play by the rules, and then and just realize that you're buying it as is. Now the good news is that when you buy an REO, they're going to go down here and later in the slides where they talk about, like, you really got to check the title reports. So there could be like clouds on title, undocumented liens, you know, stuff like that. There were a lot of hairy things that went on in the day where sellers would add a sister or a mom to the title while they were in the foreclosure process, and then try to, like, oh, well, you didn't foreclose on this person, so we still have rights to the ownership. So you really got to, like, you have to watch those title reports when you get them. I know a lot of us just like, oh, yeah, that's fine. The underwriter will catch it. Well, you want to catch it before your buyer starts spending money on an appraisal and a home inspection and all the other stuff that goes along with a normal transaction. So really, really got to pay attention to that title report, because you want to know what you're walking into as far as what's going on in that property. Has this stuff been cleared? What do I need to do to talk to title to make sure that we have the proper documentation on place? The biggest one is federal tax liens. I will tell you right now, you are not getting a demand for a federal tax lien under normal circumstances in less than 60 days. This is not going to happen. So if your buyer's got to move in 30 days and they're in escrow on a property with a federal tax lien on it, you might as well just kiss it goodbye, because you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
I can tell you that from personal experience. Usually they take anywhere from 75 to 90 to get done, and that's with a fully functioning government, by the way.
Right.
Which we don't have.
Even on the short sale side, guys. I mean, if you've got a client who's relocating into town and they're hot to close and they're like, yeah, I've got cash and I can close in 3 weeks. I'll tell you right now, these short sale banks, you telling them that you have cash, they do not care. They don't care at all whatsoever. You're looking at a 60 to 90 day turnaround, regardless of if they've got cash, a Brinks truck, gold from Fort Knox. It's irrelevant.
Right? I mean, the bank still gets a wire. The seller still gets a wire. I don't care if you come in here, like you said, with a Brinks truck or a briefcase of cash. The money still goes through a wire.
Yep.
That's just the way it works. You know, so I mean, really, when we start diving into this, I mean, and you guys got to understand that we as your leadership team, we're going to start working on more detailed courses revolving around all these different sources, right?
Yeah, this is just like breaking the surface for you guys, man.
Yeah, this is just kind of like, hey, prepare for this, right? You know, in the military, we called it train for war at a time for peace. Okay, it's time to start working on learning about these sources because they are coming.
Yep,
they are coming. You know, I think the first thing we need to roll out is how to build relationships with the bank. And the second thing is how to identify short sale opportunities, because the short sale opportunities are going to start soon. I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of July, August is when we're going to really start to see short sales become more and more prevalent. And the new agents, don't let the term short sale fool you. They are far from short. Okay, and I learned that on the fly because I got into the real estate business in 2004. And I moved back to California in 2008 from Tucson, Arizona. And I said, what's this short sale stuff? And they're like, oh, that's where you sell the house for less than they owe. I said, you can do that? I didn't know that. Because we hadn't seen them yet, because the Arizona market's 1.5 years behind California. Well, because Arizona is fueled by California money, same as Vegas.
Gotcha.
So everyone here buys property there. Because they're 30 cents on the dollar compared to here.
Gotcha.
So, and now again, like right now, you guys should be working on finding sources to locate and identify short sales. You should also be building a huge and massive liquid investor database, because those opportunities are coming. They really are. David, what do you think?
100%, man. I mean, if you've had sign calls and you're on a team and you're out and because inventory is so low, right? 2 weeks ago, inventory was less than 2 months, right? And so these guys are breathing down your neck, find me a house, and there's nothing out there. And then you lose interest because you feel you can't service them at a high level. I hope and pray that you wrote that person's name down or stuck them in command, because in the course of the next 90 days, that person's going to be one of the most important people. They're going to be your best freaking friend. And if you weren't following up with them, you didn't put them on some kind of a follow-up list. If you don't call them in the next 2-3 weeks, 45 days to reestablish that relationship, they're going to go with another realtor. Most of these investors have almost no loyalty as it is. It's first come, first serve. And this is going to be your opportunity to build that first come, first serve basis. And so if you have those leads, dig them up.
So let's talk about some of the drunk monkeys and the hallucinations you guys are all having in your heads right now. How can I convince my buyers to buy now when they all think the prices are going to drop, right? Yeah. How do I do that? Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how. I mean, are prices going to take a hit? Yeah, absolutely. So you guys have got to start getting used to having the very, very tough closing questions with your buyers.
Most definitely.
I mean, you're going to have to work on that. So is it worth it to you? Like, I mean, what if lending guidelines change drastically and you no longer qualify for a mortgage?
That just happened.
Yeah.
That legitimately just happened.
How important is it for your kids to be in that school district by the time the school starts on September? Hopefully school starts in September.
No doubt.
That one's out of our control. We can't control that one. However, how important is it for you? Look, are you planning on staying in the house for more than 5 years? Because if your anticipation is to buy this house today and flip it 2 years from now when you can do it with no capital gains tax, then you should probably not buy at all.
That's true.
But we're gonna have to get used to, like, as Tony always tells us, the economist of choice, but to have the really, really tough conversations with people in order to move that forward. In 2008, it was tough. Prices went down almost 40% in 6 months, and gas was $6 a gallon, and rates were dropping too, along with prices. They're like, why? Why would I buy now? I wish I had someone telling me, like, look, you gotta put their feet to the fire. Look, you have two choices. You're going to pay a mortgage either way. You're either paying your landlord's mortgage or you're paying your mortgage. Who do you want to spend the money on? You or your landlord?
That's it. And if there ever was an opportunity and a time for these people who've been sitting on the fence saying, well, I don't want to buy a house right now because it's the top of the market and I'm not getting a deal, now's the time to reach out to those people and to have those tough conversations like Mark's saying right now. Now is that time. Now is the time you're going to get the best deal.
Exactly. You're totally right, David. And you need to know their why. And Alex referred to this in the lead gen one. You got to know their why, because if they don't have a strong why, don't waste your time. I can tell you right now, Fred and Rita Valazon, why does that name sound familiar to me? Because I spent the better part of a year showing them property a decade ago. And I guarantee you, if I called him right now, he still hasn't bought a damn house. I guarantee it. I'm going to text him, as a matter of fact, just to prove it.
Hey, while we're talking about investors, I remember there was a guy that was that guy for me, different name, same guy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I found out later he had gone through like 2 other agents at my office, and somebody like posted the question in the group, like, has anyone ever worked with blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, oh man. I ended up finding out this guy went to a class where they told him, don't make an offer on anything until you've looked at 100 homes.
Wow.
I had one that did the same thing. He goes, yeah, if more than 10% of my offers are getting accepted, I'm offering too much. I was like, are you serious? Like, yeah.
What y'all need to do is hire someone that does this for you all the time, not an agent.
Yeah. So maybe that'd be for the coaching clients. Hey, you want to get really good at writing offers? Here.
Right.
No, you're writing it down.
Showing partner training.
Yeah.
Work with that guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I had those people, and he's just like, he wanted this, and this. And I was like, oh, yeah, I have that. Yeah. It was like 30% under market. He wanted to get a down payment assistance with a FHA loan. And, I was like, Fred, I mean, honestly, yeah, we do have that. It's right next to the Unicorn Ranch. Like, what do you want, man? I mean, you want horse property, you want this, you want that. You can come up with a list of demands, and you can't even afford a 2-bedroom house in the city, and you want like 4 bedrooms with a pool on horse property. Like, okay, that's it. So you guys got to get really, really good at pre-qualifying your clients and asking the tough questions and find out the whys. It's the people that have to move. Leases are up, their family's expanding, or their family's dividing, which is a realistic thing. They're elderly and they can't do stairs anymore, or they got to move out of an area because of a climate change. Like, those are the situations that you guys need to like really, really hone in on and focus your attention there, because the people who want to, don't waste your time unless they're investors that are paying cash, but they're going to operate from logic, not emotion. So as long as the numbers make sense, they'll write the check, with their exceptions to the rule. So, all right, let's open up for questions.
Q&A.
Come on, guys. You got like 1,500 transactions here on the phone with you. Come on. Who else?
Oh, yeah, Rob asked a question. David, can you please repeat what you said about banks requiring 86% to do a short sale? So that would be a Freddie Mac, government backed, basically. HUD, right? It's HUD approved at the end of the day. So that's VA, USDA, FHA, all the alphabet soup ones. Non-conventional. It's catch 86%, catch net 86%. What that means is that if it's a $100,000 house and it appraises at 100,000, they have to net 86,000 after they pay taxes, after they pay all their fees, title, closing costs, maybe for an incoming buyer, whatever. They have to net 86% for sure. And if they don't, they can ask for what's called a variance, okay? But then it's no longer up to the investor or the bank, mortgage servicer, or the lending institution. It has to come from HUD directly. And I've been on the end of those phone calls to HUD where they've told me, take your sign out of the yard, it's over. I've had to go back to the servicer and rework the situation. So HUD almost won't give you a variance. If it comes to that, just know, so the point, Rob, is that just know, if one of the first things, if you're sitting down with one of your clients and they're anticipating a short sale, you should ask them, did you purchase this home FHA, VA, USDA? And then you'll be able to know how to proceed.
So something I want to add to that, Cali people probably doesn't have any bearing on you, although for those of us in Illinois, where we've got plenty of neighborhoods where your houses might be, especially a short sale home, might be $40,000, $50,000, $80,000. Think about what this ratio does for those sales. If that home appraises for 60 grand, 86% of that, and I thought it was 88, but even if it's 86% of that, does not leave room probably even to pay, the tax proration, let alone all the other stuff. So if it appraises for 60, your purchase price is going to have to be like 70. It's That's right. Really uphill battle with short sales on government loan properties under anything around 100-ish thousand. If you're $200,000-$300,000, these ratios work easily. But below that, because of the property tax and the minimum fee title company charges and stuff like that, it's just really tough to get the math to work at all. You might waste a lot of time, like a friend I have who wasted a lot of time on stuff like that.
18 months. That was me.
And that's great. And that's great.
I had to get them to come up to.
And that's the stat of the day for David. And here's why, because in 2008, when everything went to hell in a handbasket, right? FHA became the new subprime. It did. Let's just be honest. I mean, like they were offering, what was it, 56 or 58% back end ratios of DTI.
Yeah.
With 500, 520 FICOs. FHA is the new subprime. So if I had to guess where the biggest opportunity of short sales and foreclosures are going to be, it would be there first. Because these are the people who had little to no money down. They were already extended pretty significantly on a monthly basis on the debt to income ratios. So Alex and David were right. I mean, you guys have got to know these ratios, and you have that's going to be really, that's going to be the first wave. And it's not until those hit the market that affect everyone else's equity, then that's going to be the next wave.
Yeah.
It'll be the tip of the spear is the government backed loans.
100%. And also to piggyback on that thought. So yeah, on the lower end of the spectrum, but I had a house that was VA. The veteran had died. His wife was unemployed for a year. They had to short sell the house and that he was a sole income winner. So you think over the stretch of 12 months when it finally came to the short sale process, what kind of condition do you think that home was in? Pristine? Probably not. Yeah. It's in a neighborhood where the home was worth literally $325,000. But she had, so I brought this up earlier, and the fact of the matter is that I had to short sell it at $225. Now, so you might say, well, that's easy. That's an easy equation. Well, you've got an appraiser that's come in here and he's going to see all the comps. The comps are 300 plus. There's no way the house is worth 325. It's a dogfight. So you have to make friends with the appraisers. That's the one and only time I would tell you, hey, you're on a short sale. Get your butt over there when that appraiser's over there. You better bring him coffee and donuts, man, and talk to him about whatever is under the sun, right? Has he got kids? He's got a pet dog. You want to bring a chew toy? Make him your best friend. I'm for real.
I know.
That's awesome. That's the only appraisal I'd ever go to right there.
100%, man.
Anybody else?
Someone says, what if these local code violations, etc., are too much? The buyer can walk away once the offer was accepted.
It would probably be in their due diligence period, wouldn't it?
Well, it may not come up till later, but when it comes up, they're going to have, like with the contract and the way that it's written, if they're going to be asked to assume responsibility for municipal code violations, they're going to have the ability to have an out on that.
Do you guys do that? You guys have to do government inspections prior to closing?
In many of the towns in our area, yes.
There's Southern California peeps. Stay away from LA County. That's the only place we do it. The cities in LA County. Stay away. You can. You guys talk fast. Yeah, we're efficient.
It's recorded.
It is recorded, yeah, for sure. And like Mark said, I mean, realistically, we've covered the entire book of Shift in less than 30 days. If you haven't been reading along with it and you've just been tuning in for an hour and a half each session, that's fine. But we're really just truthfully scratching the surface on a lot of these topics that are covered in the book.
I was literally going to write a book on my REO experience.
Oh, I bet you.
I literally was. And all the craziness, all the crazy stuff I saw. So
Yeah, but then it brings back all that trauma.
I know, yeah. I started having nightmares.
I'll be a contributor.
Yeah,
Nightmares.
I started twitching again.
Tripping smoke detectors because the batteries haven't been changed in a year.
Or those a whole bunch of deodorizers for the houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I had one literally where there was a cutout of carpet in the shape of a body.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing about Cali, though, you guys don't have to worry about winterizing properties. That's such a pain in the butt here.
Oh, dude, nothing better than walking to a house that's flooded with mold in it, brother.
Yeah, I know. Pipes burst everywhere. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting times ahead.
But we're going to discuss as the three of us, Market Center leadership teams, what we can do in terms of shared courses. If you guys have liked this style.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, we have to elaborate. I mean, these are 3 independent courses that could probably be an hour and a half to 2 hours each.
Yeah.
Easily.
Even some of the classes that we covered, like the lead gen and conversion. I mean,
that should just be ongoing.
I mean, for sure. I mean, we could be hitting these shift tactics with different angles, well into the next 90 days easily.
Absolutely, because there's so many different ways we could attack them now. I mean, we know so much more now that we didn't know in 08, 06, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think truthfully, like just getting right and getting real on the government-backed short sales is going to be the first wave. I mean, that's like just by seeing the way people got loans and how lax the standards were, like that's going to be the first run.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be the
sure.
first run. I mean, think about it like this. If your back end debt to income ratios in California are 56%, that leaves you 42, and you still got to pay taxes. Okay. And so, I mean, that leaves you maybe 10% disposable income, maybe, and then your air conditioning goes out.
Yeah.
Or you get unemployed
Yeah.
for 60 days.
Yeah, man. You're absolutely right.
You know, you didn't exactly have a whole lot of money to spare. I mean, and with that 10%, you still got to pay for things like your cell phone, clothes for your kids, food.
Netflix.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, FHA, VA, like all those loans, those are gonna be the first ones to pop.
That's
So-
going to be the subprime pop. And think of it this way, and Alex and Mark, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's somewhere in the trillions in terms of consumer debt prior to COVID-19 hitting that people had in terms of their responsibility factor. So you think if all that consumer debt was pushing down on these people, now you put in the fact that they put 0 to 3.5% minimum down on a home, it's going to come crashing down in terms of how what their affordability is if they've been furloughed or they've been unemployed for the last 60 days, like Mark was saying.
Yep.
Some areas they're probably going to be furloughed another 30, 45 days, especially like here by us. We're not expected to go anywhere near going back to normal till June. So we have another 30 to 60 days to go, and that's going to put a strain on people.
All right. Well, again, I'm humbled and appreciative of all of you guys. Thank you so much for letting us present to you. David, I loved it. Alex, thanks for your help. Ubaldo, as always.
Awesome job,
Nathan, it's
guys.
great to see you.
Thanks, guys. See you in the
Hey
next
guys,
batch.
have a great day.
Got one more tactic on Wednesday. Bulletproofing that transaction. Don't miss
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
Robin, our very own Robin's going to be teaching that. So see you guys on Wednesday.
All right, guys, take care.
Guys.
Love you guys. Wash your hands. Eat some oranges. Go get it.
Take care.